What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Shield Splitter Podcast. So today, I just wanted to start out by saying that I am winging this episode, so don't hold it against me, please. Taking into consideration that the holidays are upon us, I don't have a lot of time to do anything really. So I'm trying to make this my holiday episode because I'm pretty sure I won't be back before the 25th of this month. There's just way too much going on in my life right now, and it's only going to get busier around the holiday season. So I had two choices. Either make a holiday episode or don't. That's pretty much it. Now, it's funny that this ends up being a holiday episode because I didn't intend it to be at first. Now, the reason it's funny is because we're going to obviously be talking about Terraria, which is a game that highlights a lot of holidays. For example, when it's Halloween, a lot of the game's themes will be Halloween based. And when it's Christmas, a lot of the game's features will be Christmas based, etc., etc. New characters come out, all kinds of cool stuff. Now, this topic for me is kind of old because I wanted to talk about it a while ago, but I just never got around to it. Now, what I wanted to discuss is why should we, or why am I, excited for Terraria Otherworld? Why should anyone be excited for Terraria Otherworld? That's a fair question. Now, my answer's long because it's something that I've been thinking about for quite a while. To be honest, I just woke up one day and got excited for Terraria Otherworld. But before I got excited, I was always thinking to myself, what could they possibly do in Terraria Otherworld that they haven't already done in Terraria? I mean, it's such a huge game with so much content. I don't want the same game with prettier graphics. I don't want Starbound. I don't want any of those other clones. So what could Terraria Otherworld possibly be in any way that would get me to be interested in it at all, is my question. And then it hit me. I think that I know exactly what it is Relogic wants to do with their new installment of Terraria. Now follow along with me. For anyone who's seen episode 5 of the Shield Splitter podcast, I lightly touch on where I think Terraria Otherworld is going. It's nothing too dramatic or drastically different from the other game, but just, I think from a mechanical standpoint, I kind of discuss where I think the differences might be to get someone interested in the game. I didn't want to dwell on it too much here, because if you are interested in that, you can watch episode 5. But I wanted to kind of bring up the fact that I've talked about this already. What I didn't get to talk about are possible core mechanics, things that make the game fundamentally different from the original Terraria. What fundamental core changes does Relogic have up its sleeve to get everyone excited about Terraria Otherworld? Is my question, and here's my answer. Adventure maps. That is the core fundamental change I think Relogic plans to make. Is they're going to make Terraria Otherworld one big giant adventure map. Oh, but wait, it's not going to be just any adventure map. See, this is going to be a core fundamental mechanic. Now keep in mind, I'm still just making an assumption here, but this is why I think that's what they're doing. When you think about it, Terraria's life is based on a lot of fundamental things. I'm talking about the original Terraria right now. It's the constant developer-created content and the consistent user-based created content. Terraria is constantly having life pumped in it because of these two extremes when you think about it. Now imagine if the user-based content, like adventure maps, forced players to obey the rules and they didn't have to cooperate to have fun. They were forced to cooperate because that was a fundamental core mechanic. Another example being like, say if somebody made an adventure map that was only challenging if players weren't allowed to use wings or some kind of flight mechanism, right? Well, usually a player would make a prompt or some kind of sign that would say, hey, don't use wings on this map or it's cheating. The way that you have fun is by beating it without using this item or that item. Like, you can't use a pickaxe, you can't use this, you can't use that. Just a set of rules, right? What if the game itself had its own version of an adventure map where these rules were enforced by a prompt, but also core game mechanics? Now, considering this isn't anything new per se, because you can set your own rules on things like servers and such, But it's sort of like taking all of these outside mechanics and placing it into the core gameplay to make the game fundamentally different. Which means it might be possible for your character to go to other worlds where the rules are drastically different from your original map. But we'll get into it a little bit later. We'll take a short break. This has been the Shield Splitter Podcast, and we'll be right back.
Listen up, please!
Hey, listen!
Alright, welcome back to the Shield Splitter Podcast. Welcome back. Okay, there's a lot to cover, so let's jump right back in. So we left off with my theory on the direction that Terraria Otherworld is going, and I said the adventure map direction, which is user-based content. Now in episode 5, I did say that I think Relogic was going in a more skill-based game direction, and I think this plays into that fact as well. Alright, so for example, say that you started a new map, right? It wouldn't make sense for there to be any abnormal physics or something challenging just yet. You want to wait till a little later to do something like that. But say for example, the developers wanted the player base to experience an all water based planet or an all water based world or map. They could do that if the player was to be able to transport to another world. Now see, the starting map can be exactly what we're used to. You can have your surface world, your outer space, your underworld, all the things in between with the different cave levels, all of the different biomes. You can have all of that, right? But what never made sense in normal gameplay is imagine a world that's all dungeon, where the majority of the map is just dungeon, and it's just dungeon enemies and dungeon based caves and dungeon based themes. And what if the dungeon could go as far as the space level? This is all dungeon in a normal map. That doesn't make sense. In another world or an other world, it would. Now I'm jumping out of the window here, and I'm going to assume that maybe some of you might know of a game called Demon Souls. Well, Demon Souls had this central hub to the game called the Nexus. Now I don't want to get too deep into it or spend too much time talking about the Nexus, but it's basically a sanctuary or just a place for your character to go to after they're done completing dungeons and other types of levels. It's pretty much just like Firelink Shrine and Dark Souls 3 if you've played that game. So what I'm thinking is maybe the default map, right? The map in Terraria Otherworld that's going to be extremely similar to the one that we've seen in the original Terraria, because I know that's going to be a thing, right? Maybe that's going to be our Firelink Shrine to kind of teach us the core mechanics, like how the game's played, controls, mission-based tasks, things like that. Then, maybe near the end game, we start getting to travel to other places where it's a map that's only water with these very small islands, right? Or maybe it's a place with zero gravity, very little vegetation, and constant thunderstorms. Something like that. I'm even thinking maybe something like the desert biome where you have this sandstorm type thing where it's constantly pushing your character back, and maybe you're not allowed to use wings on that world, or something similar. Something that's similar to an adventure map, but it adds more elements that are usually out of the control of the user or the person who created it. These are more developer-based content things where they add these specific weather effects and stuff for this specific Otherworld. Now, mind you, I know this might not sound exciting by itself, but remember, in the original Terraria, the developers started making these little keys and these little mechanisms that you can create using pieces of diamond and using keys and stuff like that, right? What I'm saying is you can have an entire Otherworld where it's all about conquering these different dungeons, and at the end of each dungeon might be a boss and then a key or some kind of mechanism that you take to your original world to unlock something else. I mean, the potential is endless. The possibilities are endless. The reason I even compared it to Demon Souls was because of those weird glowing stone looking things. Like, what do those even do? Are they transporters that take you to other worlds? Who knows? As a person who creates adventure maps for Terraria, the original one, that sounds pretty exciting, man. I mean, what if it's even bigger than that, right? And for user-created content, we're actually allowed to control physics for our adventure map. Like make 2 times gravity or 0 gravity, or light gravity. I mean, imagine that. That's crazy, right? Or just like a server, we can ban certain items or materials. Like that's insane, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a Terraria that I want to play. And that would be completely different from the Terraria that we have now. I mean, they'd be very similar, of course, but they would be 2 different games. Man, I tell you, when I started thinking about it like that, I got super excited for Terraria Otherworld. I mean, as much content as we have in the original Terraria game, it's not possible for the original Terraria to have any of these features. Like, it's too complete of a game at this point and just has way too much content. I know it's crazy to say too much content for a game, but I mean, really, Terraria has too much content. The only way I see Otherworld topping the original is it has to come with some original, new, and fresh ideas. And if not, it simply has to reinvent itself. And that's the path that I think they're going down. They're going to reinvent themselves. Terraria Otherworld is going to reinvent how the game is played from top to bottom. I truly believe that. Or heck, maybe I'm totally wrong and I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. That's a possibility too. But anyhow, thanks for tuning in once again. This has been the Shield Splitter Podcast. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Later.